Now, as a kind of a segue, Steve, India talked about the development of all these new small businesses and business owners in our community. And as we look at the small business, you mentioned in your opening remarks that some of the challenge for small business is just resources and dollars. So when you think about small business training decisions, I'm a small business owner and I need to make some decisions about training. What are the drivers that help you make a decision to make an investment? And what are the barriers? I mean, kind of help us get in the mindset of the small business owner.
Well, first, one of the things I want to comment on, if you don't know enough about what India was talking about in terms of what's happening in Universe Circle, it's an absolute blow-you-away idea that's going to put this community on the map in a way that some of our other big ideas have. I mean, you guys are doing groundbreaking work, and it ties right into how you sort of use small businesses and the residents of our communities to drive what has to happen in our community. When you think about strategic business drivers and you think about small businesses, those are two disconnecting concepts, because for a lot of small business owners, we don't have a lot of money to do these things, but we have a whole lot of something that we call rope, right? We can give our employees a lot of rope that they can either use to sort of pull themselves into neat situations or wrap around their necks, one of the two. And so what we try to do is give them as much guidance as possible in terms of getting it done. And for a small business owner, I think, there was a survey question there about on-the-job training, and I wasn't sure what you meant. Does it mean, welcome to your job, start training? Or does it mean, welcome to your job, here's your training program? And for small businesses, it's much more of the former. Welcome to your job, we think you got what it takes, jump in and get it done, and let's see what you can do. So I think for small business owners, a big driver is figuring out how to get through whatever period of planning you're thinking about, right? It's more about how do I get through this week, this month, this quarter, this year, than thinking about when I got to General Electric right out of college, they had Crotonville, right? And so this is wonderful training academy where all these really smart people are, and you look at yourself as this business analyst at GE and you go, well, I could be Jack Welch someday, and there's 47 jumps to get there, and there's 1,500 training hours to get there, whatever the thing is. You get to a small business owner, you go, there's about 6 of us here, and that guy isn't going to die soon, and that guy's the son or daughter of the owner, so what am I going to sort of get to do here? And so as we sort of look at it, you say, what's the planning horizon for a small business owner? And so trying to get a small business owner to think through where they're headed. I was recently exposed to some of the work from Richard Boyatis over at Case Western. He has a book on becoming a resident leader. And a lot of that book is around putting a plan together for yourself about where you want to be. And for a small business owner, having a plan about where they want their business to be, and then figuring out how to tie that back into the training that they give to their employees is really important. Time is the most critical constraint. Budget is the least critical. If I can spend $4 for Starbucks coffee or $100 for 4 hot dogs and some beers and some Browns tickets, I can put money into investment in training. But finding the time to sort of make it happen for my employees and figuring out how to plan it into the work they're doing is one of the biggest constraints. And so I think one of the most profound assignments I've ever had in my life as a junior in college, for a class, I had to put together a 5-year business plan for me. And it was really amazing. After those 5 years, I kind of dug it out and I found it and went, wow, that was kind of cool. I sort of did those things and I followed that plan. But that's the last time I did a 5-year business plan for me. And for a small business owner, when do they sit down and actually say, what's my learning plan? There's no time for that. It's all reacting. So getting small business owners to think about their learning plan, and the resources abound. We can talk about those later. But figuring out what you don't know and what you need to know to get to the next level is sort of the biggest and the hardest part, I think, for small business owners in this space.
We hear a lot about the issue of time, and it really is the most critical shortage for a resource standpoint, isn't it, in small business? Absolutely. And then we flip over and we look at the large corporation, and when you have lots of people doing certain tasks, you still may have some of those issues of the single person, right, Nancy?
We really do. It's interesting. You talk about the small business, and it's interesting to me because, again, way back when, 143 years ago, we were a small business. And it's hard to imagine that it really started as a small business in that way. But I would say that time is always the challenge for us. What you're able to do in a large corporation with so many years of practice at this and resources is that you do have a lot of tools that are available, but you're still at the question of compliance, if you will, or, I think that's the way in corporate America you find out what's really valuable, because the tools that are the most valuable do get used. And so you have to be, I think whether you're a large or a small owner, you have to constantly be in touch with what your employees are telling you do enable them to perform. and that are making a difference. And it's really about the customer. It's how they're doing and how they're succeeding with our customers, because they're always looking for those solutions. And so I think when you look at that kind of ROI for the training investment that you make, it comes from solving real business issues. And again, I think it doesn't make any difference if it's small or a large business, but the idea is to put results on financial statements in some way. And whether that's top line or whether you're taking out savings or whatever it is, and so the tools and the programs help you do that. But I also think, and many of us have said this, it's a part of this holistic view of your whole talent development, employee engagement, that delivers this consistent customer positive experience and the execution of your business that's out there. So I do think we share some of the same challenges. We have a lot more tools and resources that are available to us, but the challenges are really pretty much the same.
You know, Nancy, you mentioned about the top line and the bottom line. One of the things that when I started my job at corporate college, one of the first companies I went out to talk to in this community was Sherwin-Williams, and I did that in my first 30 days of working, because Sherwin-Williams has this long history of a commitment, and no employer today makes a strong commitment to anything that doesn't strengthen the business. And you talked a minute there about top line and bottom line. How often and in what ways are the conversations around employee development tied to the financial success of Sherwin-Williams?
You know, I think, again, we look at market share. We actually look at customer loyalty metrics that we have, but we're also looking at our bench strength of talent that we have. We're constantly looking at that we're an employer of choice. We're looking at our employee engagement scores and how we're, performing in that way. So it's kind of a bundle that gets to, if the issue is performance, if it's peak performance, there's so many different levers that you're pushing, of which training and development is one of them. I think one of the things that we all learn is that training and development is really a communication vehicle. And it allows us, again, whether it's a small business or a large business, to be in close touch and communication with our people on topics that are really important to them, again, that position them for success, that position the organization for success, that lets us discover their strengths and use their strengths and their vibrant ideas to help keep making our organization better. So the metrics are both the financial, kind of traditional, as well as the human resource metrics, again, of being an employer of choice, of employee engagement, of our employee opinion surveys, and all those kinds of things. So I think it's the whole picture.
I think it's really important that you point out the employer of choice, because I believe, this is the Denise reading bias, that in a worldwide global economy with so much competition for talent, being the organization, like the Cleveland Clinic, who can draw the top talent, really does make a competitive difference in the individual organization, but our nation's competitiveness. And that's directly tied to what we do to invest in people.
Well, and to your point, we're finding that this does translate globally. The more that we expand globally, the power of our employment brand globally is just, you can't even begin to really appreciate the value of being able to say, one, the duration of our company, two, the values that we stand for, and three, just a long history of performance and investment in our people in this way goes a long way.
Right. It's interesting. Globally, the world is very committed to education in ways the United States has begun to lag. We were very much the leader in the 1950s. And I know from your example that Sherwin-Williams' success internationally is directly tied to your investment in employees, because I get the opportunity to do the comparisons for companies in Ohio in other countries, and this is a big issue.